The government is helping landlords buy mobile home parks, raise the rent, and evict people. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's going over the opinion of certain writers who think that it's a problem that basically landlords are able to get government-backed loans to buy mobile home parks, and then they're using those mobile home parks just like they would any other real estate investment. They're making improvements to them, they're raising the rents, and then those parks are valued at a greater amount of money. They're then refinancing, drawing out that money, and then buying more real estate. This is very, very common tactic, whether it's a mobile home park, an apartment complex, a single family home, or whatever. This is what landlords do. This is what we've done for a very long time. Now, there are, certain people who believe this isn't ethical, like, oh, you're raising rents and all that. But I am not one of those people. And if they looked at the fact that, hey, we're keeping the housing stock up to date, we're making the improvements necessary, and we're charging the rents that are market rate. Okay, that's all we're doing. We can't keep the rents down at rock bottom forever. Imagine if people nowadays were paying the same rents that people were paying in 1950. Oh, well, $100 a month, that's enough. Well, that doesn't even cover, your insurance, much less the taxes, the utilities, the mortgage payments, etc. So it's a good thing when the prices are going up. I mean, really, real estate is one of the few hedges there are against inflation. And in my opinion, if landlords don't have a motivation to be able to buy properties and fix them up, well, the housing stock itself will just become old and dilapidated, okay? And that's not what's good for tenants. So before I get into the article though, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below and let me know what you think, okay? Do you think it's a bad thing that landlords are coming in there and they're getting these government-backed loans so that they can buy these mobile home parks, fix them up and then raise the rents to make a profit? I mean, I'm 99% sure that most landlords on here have no problem with it. Now, if you're not a landlord and you're watching this, then let me know what you think too. Do you think that this is somehow any different than what landlords have been doing basically forever? Okay. Anyway, this article comes from opb.org and it says how the government helps investors buy mobile home parks, raise rent, and evict people. Yeah, let's see what this says because I'm kind of curious what angle they're going at in this article. Money is tight for Mary Hunt. She often has to decide which bills to pay on time. Heat, her car loan, the phone bill, but she hasn't been able to but she's been able to scrape by for more than 30 years living in a mobile home park in Swartz Creek, Michigan. She owns her home outright, but she needs to pay monthly lot rent to the park for the little patch of land that it sits on. And the managers of the park, a couple named Stan and Nancy, used to live right here. I would call up and say, hey, look, I've got half the rent, Hunt says. I'll bring the rest, next week or whatever. Stan and Nancy would say, okay, so she would make it work, even earning just $10 an hour at her job driving elderly patients to doctor's appointments. And she describes a lot of the tenants who live in these mobile home parks, okay? Very low income, very modest means, okay? And a lot of the mobile home parks were traditionally owned by small mom and pop landlords, and they only owned maybe that one mobile home park. So what happens when these people, they decide to get out of the business or they pass away, and someone else comes in to buy it? Well, a lot of the people who are buying these parks, they are larger investors nowadays because they see the amount of cash flow that these mobile home parks generate, and they're like, hey, this is probably one of the better ways to get into real estate investing if we're looking for that sort of cash flow. But a few years ago, Stan and Nancy retired. A local land owner sold the park, and Hunt, 50, learned that her new landlord was an out-of-state company in the business of buying mobile home parks. These days, that's not unusual. A generation of mom and pop owners of mobile home parks are retiring and looking to sell, and investors and companies are swooping in to buy these parks. They raise fees and rents for the land under the homes and evict people who can't pay. Housing advocates say it's a disturbing trend that's happening to residents in parks around the country. Yeah, of course, housing advocates would say that. But let's take a deeper look at it and see, this is very easy to compare to old apartment buildings that were owned by mom and pop owners who just bought them a very long time ago. A lot of the times the rents are way, way below market rate because those people, they own the property outright. And they were running the business just, trying to keep the place full and trying to keep that steady amount of cash flow. So when they do finally sell their property, whether it be an apartment complex or a mobile home park, right? The new owners, most likely they have a mortgage on the property. They have higher costs associated with the property, and they know that they can raise rents as well to bring those rents up to the market level. Because if your mobile home park is charging, let's say, $200 a month in lot rent, but every other mobile home park in town is charging $400 a month lot rent, then even if the tenants don't want to pay that new higher lot rent, well, there's nowhere that they could go and get the same lot rent. Plus, in terms of mobile home parks, right, we have the interesting situation of where the tenant actually owns the home, but not the land it sits on. So even if they wanted to move their mobile home to a different park with lower lot rent, they're going to have to pay like $5,000 to get that thing moved. And a lot of tenants aren't going to want to do that. This is part of the reason why mobile home park investing can be so lucrative for landlords. But I don't see any problem with investors coming in there and raising rents up to the market rate. What's more, these companies are getting help doing that from billions of dollars worth of low interest rate loans backed by the federal government. And the volume of that financing has risen sharply in recent years. This trend is hurting the homeowners that can least afford it. For millions of Americans, owning a home in a mobile home park has been an affordable way to keep a roof over their heads. Families living in them make around $32,000 a year. In Hunt's case, the new owner is a real estate investment firm named Haven Park Communities. It started raising her lot rent and fees. Since 2017, the rent and fees have risen about 40% from less than $350 per month to more than $480 a month. So, and this is kind of my gripe with this sort of article, okay? They're like, oh, well, the rent has risen 40%, but then they mention the fact that it's been nearly 5 years. Okay, so the rent has risen nearly 40% over the course of 5 years, and now it's $480 a month. Okay, but there's been inflation every single year. The cost of the utilities, the taxes, the maintenance, everything has increased every year since 2017 for the landowner. So yes, the landowner does need to raise the rent every single year, and counting it over such a large period of time is ridiculous. Okay, so over a 5-year period, rent has increased by 40%. And then, if you think of the fact that, hey, it was going from a very low rent of, or it says around $350 a month up to where it is now to right around $480 a month, that isn't a huge increase considering, the amount of time given and for the fact that, hey, this is what the market says that I can charge. So, basically they're demanding that landlords charge below market rents, not make any money so that we can keep people in housing and basically give them a discount for no good reason. That doesn't make any sense, okay? And part of their gripe is that landlords are getting these, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac backed loans in order to buy these properties. Well, guess what? Landlords have been doing that with multifamily property, multifamily real estate, apartment buildings for a long time. Okay, there's no real difference to me between getting a Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac backed government backed loan to buy an apartment building versus buying a mobile home park. Especially if you're serving the same type of customers, very low income people, affordable housing. I mean, there's no difference. They see this as different because of the fact that, hey, these tenants actually own the mobile homes that are sitting on the land, and they somehow consider that being wrong now all of a sudden. Well, I don't, okay? I see it the same way. And yes, it is more lucrative, but there was always the chance that this was going to happen when you decide to live in a mobile home community. That's part of the reason why, I wouldn't suggest living in a mobile home community, because even if you do own the house, you still have to pay that lot rent, whatever it may be. And just as problematic for Hunt, Haven Park is quick to file for eviction. She says the company wouldn't be flexible with her and take partial rent payments the way Stan and Nancy would. She says instead, when she fell behind on the lot rent, Haven Park filed an eviction case against her. Right? And, okay, so what they're basically saying is, hey, this new, owner of the mobile home park is doing things the way they should be done, okay? They are not making exceptions. They are not taking partial rent payments. They are not putting themselves in a scenario where, tenants are taking advantage of them. So that's the problem a lot of mom and pop landlords have, is that they are getting taken advantage of by tenants. And you see what the result of that was when you look at the eviction moratorium, okay? The eviction moratorium meant that a lot of landlords got completely screwed because they were trying to be nice. They weren't filing for evictions. They were taking partial rent payments, and they got screwed over because of it. Well, the professionally run property management companies and the professionally run companies that manage these mobile home parks, they follow a strict set of rules, no exceptions. And that's the only real fair way to do it. So, yeah, interesting stuff in this article. I'm not even going to bother reading the rest of it, but, I can't believe for one second they think that, hey, this is any different than what apartment owners have been doing for a long time. Just because it's a mobile home park doesn't mean that landlords should suddenly just give up on making a profit. What ridiculousness.